Breeze at my back, sun on my face, nothing but free. Okay. I initially wanted to talk in a certain direction, and I still want to go there. This is kind of an odd one. This doesn't... I guess it could be connected to it, I guess. I originally was going to just talk about my childhood because I wanted to compare what it was like to grow up in the 1970s. From 1970 to 1980, I was 3 to 13 years old. And aside from disco, the 70s were great. Oh wait, bell bottoms too. But it had its charm. But as I got thinking about that when I got home here and thinking about my childhood, it's going on the year anniversary of my father's passing. And my mother ceased to be my mother about 4 years ago when the dementia set in. When I first broke in 2019, my dad was still lucid. He still was communicative. And over the year that I talked to him once a week, he started to become quiet, and I didn't understand. It wasn't until I went to South Carolina that I realized it was the Parkinson's. It made it incredibly difficult for him to speak. I so wanted to be able to interact with both of my parents as I am, as the real me. You could say that life cheated me on that one too. But you can't be better. So actually, this is part and parcel in honor of my... part and parcel in honor of my parents. They were incredible people. They were two people who, despite the difficulties, stayed devoted to each other. They wanted a family. They loved their family. My dad taught me, I had to have been 8. I had a Matchbox car, and he tried to explain to me how I could determine the relative speed of the car by measuring the car lengths over time and then doing a ratio to a real car size. I never forgot that. He taught me perspective. Drawing perspective, life perspective too, but drawing perspective. He took me to his work in the late 70s. He was spearheading the computerization of his lab that he worked in. He was a package designer, a corrugated package designer. Yeah, that is an actual occupation. I'm going to have to edit out the pauses. He was a sailor. He built his own pontoon catamaran. I think he called it the nuts and bolts or bucket of bolts or something. Plywood deck. He epoxied over the foam for the pontoons. It eventually turned into a swimming float thing where you... And I think he eventually turned it into a glass-bottom boat. He tried to make a sailboat out of a canoe. That didn't work out so well. Fortunately, the motorboats were out to tow him back in. My dad was an artist. He painted before he was married and had kids, and then gave that up to raise a family and did sculpture instead, wood carving. He would sit in the living room at night with his sheet on the floor and his tools and a block of wood, and he would just work. When I had the joyful task of telling everyone that he had passed, I had people calling me, telling me what a wonderful man he was, how compassionate and caring. I just... Okay. Or this is just going to be nothing but pauses. My mom had a difficult childhood. But she was determined, and she put herself through college. And she even, when my mom and dad met, she had a better job than him. But she opted to quit her job and raise the family. My mom was the information hub of our extended family. She kept everybody abreast of everything. Through what, the kids have forgotten, a handwritten letter to everyone. She wrote letter upon letter to people, 3-4 pages long, just keeping everybody connected with what was going on with everybody else. She would paint her own Christmas cards every year. I could still picture her sitting. I could still picture her sitting at the table, painting away. My mom was the one who introduced me to classical music. Or close. No, it was. She did listen to regular classical. She was a fan of John Williams. Of course, she was a fan of, oh God, I can't even remember his name. I'll come up with it eventually. My mother was one of my biggest supporters. Always encouraging me. Both my parents attended everything, every concert, every theatrical production I was in. They taught me not to judge. They taught me to accept everyone. They were both self-professed agnostics, so they never forced a religion on me, but allowed me to explore myself. Obviously, they weren't perfect, but what they gave far outweighs what they were deficient in. I mean, both of my parents were raised in the 50s. Thank you, 1950s. you know, you don't take that kind of emotional interest in your children in the sense of saying, are you okay? The one thing I wished I'd had from my parents was when I was struggling as a kid. I wish they'd have sat me down and asked me if I was okay. Told me that no matter what, they would still love me. I don't blame them. I don't have ill will towards them whatsoever. I know their backgrounds. I know how they were raised. Just what it was. Anyways, I had intended this to be something else, so perhaps I will do another one pertaining to that. But this, I guess, is just in honor of my parents. Two people that you would have loved to have met. Riding my bike, so much excitement to fill up my day. Hanging with friends, the fun never ends. I like it that way.